We are live.
Okay, thank you, Mandy.
You're welcome.
Let's call this meeting to order at 6:05. First item on the agenda is recognition of visitors. Mandy's got attendance taken. Approval of the agenda.
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Thank you, Louis. And a second?
Washington County will second that.
Thank you, Jeff. Any additions to the agenda? Not that we have
Yeah,
much on.
Jeff, yeah, from Caledonia County, we had a county meeting last week, and there were some items that the county wanted me to bring up to the board tonight.
Okay. We will slot you in under new business as A.
And I'm sorry, who was the person who seconded the agenda approval?
Jeff Halpin from Washington.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else to add to the agenda? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Nay? All right, the secretary's report.
I make a motion to accept the secretary report.
Wilma will
Yeah.
second.
Thank you, Carmen. Any changes, adjustments, corrections? Hearing none. Seeing no hands in the air. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. Treasurer's report, Patty.
There we go. Okay. So the report represents data through March 31st or 6 months of our budget. So start with membership. March this year, we had more activity than we've had during the month of March the past 2 years. And the 3-day passes, no surprise, were the popular add-on in that membership area. About 31K went to the trails budget and 12K to the general fund, or a total of 43K. But overall, for the season, our 3-day pass revenue is lower than expectation out of all of the different types. General fund budget expectation is about 7,300 short. And trails budget is about 20K, or a total about 30K. And that's just in the 3-day pass arena. Overall memberships at 87% of budget expectation. You guys should all have an email with this information on it as well. Overall income is at 85% of budget expectation compared to years prior. We were in the 90s. Income was 116K approximately, and of which 91K was from membership. Expenses were about the same percentage of the budget expectations as we were last year at this time, around the 48%. Our expenses this month were about 107K, much lower than the past 2 years. And an example, I went back and looked at last year. This time we paid about over 350K in grooming. So during the month of March last year. So obviously this year we didn't pay that big expense. Activity this month reflects our lobbyist expenses, trail signs, and some very minor grooming payments, as well as the printing of the magazine. And again, everybody should have that summary as well as the charts comparing the 3 years in those 3 buckets. That's what I have, Jeff.
Thank you, Patty. Any questions for Patty as far as the budget goes or the expenses go?
Just a quick question, Patty. So did that email go out earlier today? I may have missed
Yeah. Mandy forwarded it to everybody. Yes.
it. Okay. Thank you. I probably just missed it.
That's okay. Usually Cindy does, but Mandy did in her absence.
Went out about 4 o'clock, Carmen.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't checked it since like 3, so that's why.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But it's got Patty's report, and then it's got all the TMA reports in it as well.
Jeff, I'm an alternate director. I did not get that email. I don't know if maybe my name isn't on the list.
It probably is not, Greg. We can get that forwarded to you.
Yeah,
Um,
Greg, you got the,
I just barely got on the list to get the packets. Maybe that will follow.
I'll forward the email over to you, Greg.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mandy.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments on the treasurer's report?
Rutland County will make a motion.
Thank you. And a second?
Addison,
Thank you, Louis. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Nothing table, nothing under old business. Item A under new business, Caledonia County. You have the floor.
Thank you very much. Well, we had a meeting last week and most of the clubs that were there, at least 80%, they're not happy with the current setup regarding the $30 club membership. They feel that the larger clubs collect the majority of the dollars and can more afford repair costs when something goes wrong with their groomer. The smaller clubs, which quite a few are in Caledonia County, are at a severe disadvantage. And this discussion led to a couple of suggestions that Bass could do some kind of revenue sharing program for their smaller clubs. And one example is that there's a couple of clubs that easily collect over $45,000. Another collects $66,000 in TMAs. Well, and one of the clubs in our county grooms between 40 and 50 miles, and it gets $2,400 on TMAs. And then when they have a $10,000 repair and they get their $5,000 from Bass towards the repair, they still have to foot another $5,000. And you have to remember in Caledonia County, some of these clubs are very on the outskirts where there are no businesses around them where they can get support or they can grow their membership. Another suggestion they made in regards to this was raising the club dues by $5. This would be collected and go to each county in a lump sum to be distributed at the end of the season for financial assistance towards repairs beyond what Bass gives them. The account be kept separate from all other funds so the money spent is clearly documented so there's no misuse. And clubs that don't groom would not be available to collect any of these funds. Over the past 3 years, Caledonia County's seen its membership go down over 400, and it's probably closer to 500 if you really look in the numbers, to somewhere just under 2,000. I mean, they've tried to reverse the trend by taking ads out in the Bass magazine, and we've spent thousands of dollars in advertising. But it just seems that the more of the people are gravitating towards the bigger clubs. And for what reason, we have no idea, but there has to be something done in regards to the financial assistance to smaller clubs when they need repairs. The other thing is consolidation of clubs. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I'm a big advocate of that in Caledonia County. And right now I'm in the process of trying to get 2 of the 12 clubs to join 2 of the other smaller clubs. So financially, they can better handle situations when they come up. But looking at the last TMA report, you can see there's about 50 clubs have 100 or less TMA sold. So that's another area that the county feels really should be looked at, is consolidating clubs. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Bruce.
Hey, Jeff.
Yes, Pat, go ahead.
Bruce, what are the county dues in Caledonia?
$1 per membership. And the thing is, with the county being so few members that if we did increase it to $5 or $10, we would be hurting 9 of the 12 clubs in the county. We would just be taking money away from them instead of giving money back to them like we wanted to. And another issue that relates to that too is there are some clubs that have over 150 or 200 members. They don't grow. They still get that $30 membership. And quite frankly, the comment was made that they're cash flush. They have a lot of cash. I mean, in our county, I'm trying to get these clubs to merge with other clubs that grew. So financially, they'll be better off, but
So basically you want the money to come from outside of Caledonia County.
well, each county for all the membership, if you increase the membership by $5, at the end of the season, say Caledonia had 2,000 members, about what we had this year. That would be an extra $10,000 that would go back to Caledonia County, which they would review the repairs or requests for assistance in their county after they get the money back from VAST and be able to help these smaller clubs out more. Other than having a true revenue sharing plan with the, like say the 4 biggest clubs in the state that have roughly almost 6,000 members between them. I don't know what else you could do.
Have you looked at prorating your dues in the county?
No.
I mean,
Can I say something, Jeff?
go ahead.
My hand up. So what I was going to say, Louis, I just have, Bruce, could you email me these thoughts so that the long-term planning committee could take them up and start looking at them? That I think
I
that,
will.
because obviously in a meeting setting like this, we're not gonna be able to hash them out and come up to a conclusion tonight. But if you get these ideas to us, it's something that we can start looking at and thinking about. Sorry,
Yeah, I will, because the comment was to bring them up so that the discussion could start. So when we had the retreat in August where everybody gets together, we could go more in depth and maybe come up with something to help these smaller clubs.
And that's what the long-term planning committee sort of sets the agenda for and does. So that's, but I'd like to have it in writing so that I don't forget it.
Yep, no problem.
I agree with Mark, what he's just said, because you're looking at something to switch it around. That's when you're going to get people start shopping around, and you're going to end up losing more members because people are going to start shopping around. That's what we did across the board. Now, before everybody gets the same amount, $30 per TMA, every club gets. What was your dues for your clubs before then?
You mean what were the dues?
Yes.
At one time, the dues in Caledonia County were $5 a club, and they did away with that several years ago because of the mismanagement of the money, and clubs were fighting over the money. So they went down to a dollar, $1 each for TMA, and then that money would be used for local charities and some put aside. So when we had the annual meeting come again to our county.
Yeah, well, see, you're already getting a lot more money than you used to by the new TMA system online. Now, for us in Addison County, we go $5 goes to county and $25 goes to club members all the time. So that usually bumps up your budget pretty good. But I agree with Mark that, send it to them, take a look at them, let them discuss it and see if they can come up with something. But just to let you know, you're already getting more money than what you used to.
Yep.
I'm done.
Thank you, Louis. Carmen, did you have something to say?
Well, I guess I was confused because I thought that Louis was asking what the club dues were, and he was saying county dues are $1. So I think there's a difference between like club and county, but whatever. I'm good, Jeff.
Okay.
I'm
I
good.
think he said dollar for county and $5 for club. He gave 2 answers.
Okay, okay.
Yep. Okay.
I'm not sure that's what he said. I think what he said is that the county dues were $5 in the past, and that there was an issue, and they reduced them to $1. Is that right, Bruce?
Yes, you're correct.
Yes.
What were your club dues, Bruce, before the $30 went into effect?
All the clubs had different dues. They range from
Any of them-
$15 to $25.
Yeah. There's your
Okay.
problem also there. It should be the same for every club in the county.
Oh, absolutely. You gotta have one club dues for the whole state. You can't have 35 here and 30 here. That's why they made the comment to have $5 added to every club membership. Then that money would go back to the county at the end of the season and then divvied out as needed for repairs to equipment. And it would be limited just to repairs. And clubs that didn't groom wouldn't have access to this money. I mean, we have one club in our county that I referenced. They groom between 40 and 50 miles. They have 80 members and they don't have any businesses around them. They're really in the outskirts. I mean, so they've got $2,400 to work with. That's it. But it's just a thought for discussion so we can go, everybody can look at it. We can go over it when we have the retreat in August.
I agree with that because I didn't realize there were clubs that big that weren't grooming. I'd have to see that in writing in in paperwork to see who it is and how that is working. Because last I knew, there weren't clubs that big that were not grooming. So.
Yep.
Okay, sounds like we got a good topic for our retreat this year. And let's see. Trails Administrative Reports. Oh, Matt is on here. Anything you want to add, Matt, to your report? Or Ken, for that matter?
No, unless there's any questions.
Any questions for Matt on his Trails Administrator's report?
Doug has his hand up, Jeff.
Hey, Jeff. I don't know if you can see my hand up on there.
Oh, yeah, I can now, Doug. You were back on the other screen.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I just have a question for Matt. I don't know if I missed it or if it's anywhere in the report, but do we have any idea this year how many clubs received only the 35% startup payment and then never groomed enough to receive any more additional payment for grooming? Is that anything that's kept track of or no?
It is. I'll have a report next month for the board once all the grooming logs and things have been sent in and we've done the final payments. I will have a report to the board for that. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
And just as a side note, Doug, it was addressed in his report
Oh, perfect.
briefly. But that's all right.
I'll put my glasses on next time.
There you go. Any other questions?
I have a couple questions. I can't really see if anybody else has their hand up though, so.
Go ahead, Carmen.
Matt, just a couple of questions. Do you have any perspectives regarding new GPS units for the 2024 season? I know it's an ongoing project and I know it's not going to be an easy fix by any means, but I just didn't know if in that process, if you found somebody that's, you're leaning towards more than another.
No decision's been made on it yet. I don't really have a lot of information. There was one unit we were looking at through Atlas Tracks, who does it for New Brunswick, and I believe they have a company that does mapping too, and some of our other surrounding states do use their mapping services as well. So that's where we've been thinking about going, but there's nothing, set. I haven't even talked to them yet about pricing or, what that would even look like. So we're really in the infant stages of it still. I had reached out to New Brunswick, my counterpart there, with a bunch of questions about how their system works. And I know their season went pretty late up there, so they've been busy with the regular snowmobile season stuff. And he did say he'd get back to me, but I haven't heard back as of yet.
Okay, cool. All right. I just know I've heard a lot of issues, obviously with those units in my county. So that's why I was just kind of inquiring about that. My other question is for Ken. Is he on here?
Yes.
Yes.
he's on here.
Yep, I'm here.
Okay. So, Ken, where do we kind of stand with the LVRT? Obviously, there's been some things that have come up in Memorial Lake County with like right-of-ways with our farmers, and now we're going to have to be moving intersection signs and all of that. But I'm it seems like they kind of push for the information, but as soon as the clubs are asking for information back from them, we're not getting a response. So I'm kind of concerned, because you're talking about some pretty big landowners in Lamoille County that if they're going to start pushing some of the issues that have come up in the emails, we could lose some trails and we could lose some clubs out of it. And that's a concern. So I'm just wondering if you have any more kind of light to shed on that.
I don't think I really do. The right-of-way issues with the corn planting, the emails that have gone around. I don't know if you're copied on those, but that's all the information we have. But that's an ongoing thing that dates back to the 1990s when the railroad, when they pulled up the tracks. And some of the state legislators were telling farmers that they would get their land back, which was never true. And that has just carried over since then. So there's going to be some give and take there, which is inevitable. The farmers are plowing up the ballast of the railroad. They plowed up some of the signs that disappeared. So we're hearing from the club that people like the corn to be that close, but there are some real management issues. The state needs to be able to manage their property. So there will be some give and take there. And if that means the farmers make a big fight about it and shut the other trails down, then there's nothing really we can do about that. The state is the landowner. It's just like,
I understand that, Ken, but so is the farmer. They are the landowner as well. And it seems that we have a lot more issues now that unfortunately that the state has taken over. And the problem is if that landowner, that farmer shuts his trail down, that club is done. I mean, they only have like one trail then, and then it's not even going to end up connecting. We're going to lose a big connection of the trail, which is a main corridor in that area, and that's a huge concern. So I understand that there has to be give and take, but from what I've read, I don't hear the state doing any compromising. That's my concern.
yeah, I'm not going to be able to change your opinion on that. I guess that there's no, the state has to mow the trail and they have to use certain equipment to do that. The corn is so close to the trail that they can't mow it. So the farmer is going to have to give up some space. I don't know how much. They need to negotiate with the state and figure that out. But the most helpful thing probably that you could do is, if your club has connections with those farmers, is try to talk to them and prepare them for that and see if, help them understand what's going on. But the state is the landowner of the railroad. We're just a user of it, so we don't have control over that. And the state is not going to be held hostage by our other trails. They really don't care.
Well, and we can't ever get into disputes between landowners anyway. It's a no-win situation for it, whether it was Farmer Jones and Farmer Smith, who are landowners next to each other, or the state, or a corporation, or whatever. I understand your concern, Carmen, but I don't think we can ever get in between two landowners.
Well, the state has actually brought us into it. I'm just, Mark, I'm just letting you know, I've seen the email chain back and forth, and it's just, I mean, the club is concerned, and I can understand why they're concerned. And, they sent out an email, requesting some information, and now all of a sudden the state has just decided that, oh, well, we're not gonna, they haven't replied. So I was just hoping that maybe there was gonna be more information on that, but it's okay. I get it.
I can jump in a little bit here, because I was talking with the LVRT folks about this issue last week. It
Okay.
came up in another conversation I was having with them. And what Ken said is exactly right. And what the state said is they are going to be consistent with every landowner down through there, whether it's a farmer, a municipality, anyone. They can't do something for one landowner and not another. It has to be consistent and fair. And they've worked with the one landowner that you're referring to, and did try to work with him out in the field last year, and they thought it was all resolved. And then he went and got some folks at the State House involved and escalated it to basically above their level, the folks that are working out in the field. So now it's gone political. So it's out of their hands, and now it's going to be a formal process that has legal ramifications and different things in it. So that's what he told me. He's like, we tried to resolve it at the very easy level, and it's escalated at this point. There's not much we can do. But what they wanted to do, I think the emails you're referring to are ones that I sent. The folks on the ground at VTrans wanted to talk to, they didn't know if the club had any cell numbers or emails for some of those landowners or their kids who are running some of the farm now, because they wanted to reach out to them and look, we're still kind of willing to work with you, but this has taken a whole nother process that's out of our hands. So expect, they're trying to work with them and let them know what to expect, because it's been escalated to that level by the farmer getting politicians involved. So that's sort of where they were at. They're like, they don't really want this
I mean, it's a mess for sure. I mean, I know that the state has already gone in and kind of drove stakes into the ground to kind of mark their territory. So it seems to keep kind of escalating. So I think the club is just kind of hoping for the best, right now. So
But
I thought I would just ask. So
the state's not overstepping their bounds here, are they? They're not. They're placing stakes or identifying the boundaries of the trail, or are they extending them?
My understanding, and Matt or Ken, you would probably know this better than I would. But my understanding is it's 20. The right of way is 20 feet from the center. Am I incorrect in that statement?
It's more often 30 feet. It's usually 60 feet wide, but it changes from place to place. But I think
Okay.
through most of those fields, it's 60 feet wide. I think the 20 feet is where they want to mow to.
Okay.
But they've been planting corn within 5 feet of the gravel, so in places.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because the stakes are definitely more than 20 feet out. So that's why I was that was part of the reason why I was inquiring and asking. So
Carmen, the right-of-way maps are all available to the public. They're not survey accurate, but I can send you a link if you wanted to look at those.
I would appreciate that, Ken. And when you have a moment, that would be greatly appreciated.
I'll put it in the chat. Well, I'll have to figure it out for a second here, but I'll put it in the chat.
Great, thank you. I appreciate it.
Anything else, Carmen?
No, I'm just trying to get some information so we don't lose trails.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you. John Hall, patiently waiting with your hand up.
Hey, Matt, just wondering how you're making out on that, on the fuel distribution on the 100 grand that was, appropriated at the last annual meeting. How's that coming along?
I don't know. Is that up to me or for the board to decide? I don't really know if that was on me or not.
It's up to
I
the
thought
board.
you were supposed to come up with a formula.
Yeah, and present it to the board, develop it for the board's approval. That was
Oh,
my
I
understanding.
guess-
as well.
I guess I didn't realize that. I thought the power was given to the board to decide what to do with that funding. But I can come up with a formula.
I think we need to go back and look at the minutes of that meeting after the annual meeting and see what the actual wording was. So the money's still sitting there, so we'll figure out a way to spend it sooner or later.
Yeah, if I need to do it, I can. I mean, I have ideas. I just don't. Yeah.
Yeah, because I thought it was left up to the board, but I may be wrong. But we can look into that and we'll make that an item of discussion for next month.
You don't have enough time in the next 3 months for the board to do it. Because the 14 of us could never agree on it, so
Well, there you go.
we just need some ideas. We'll pick the
You're
best.
so optimistic.
I've been on this board a long time.
Yeah. I don't know it's optimistic, Louis, but realistic more than likely. Bruce, I see your hand up.
Yeah, could you make sure that when you go back and review the records of the annual meeting, you send it out to everybody what the actual wording was for word what the motion was?
Yep, I will, I'll see if I can work on that tonight.
Thanks.
Or not, I'll give Mandy a project for tomorrow. Mike Stewart.
Yes, sir. So Jeff, if I remember correctly, at the annual meeting, we talked about in a perfect season, how many miles were going to be groomed. Was that like 10,000 miles or was it more than that or something like that?
Oh, it's
Matt,
more than that.
Right, Matt could probably help us on that.
Yeah.
And then that 100,000 was going to be divided per mile. That's what I thought.
Yeah, I know there was a couple of different discussions and I'm not sure what we actually ended up with. Because there was some discussion about class 1 taking more fuel than a class 4, and that became a topic of some debate.
That was part of the discussion.
Yeah.
But as far as class 1 grooming, how many total miles were gonna be in a perfect season if everybody got their contract full.
Yeah.
And take that 100,000 and divide it that way, something like that. I'm just trying to remember what the heck we're talking about.
And we also need to remember that diesel fuel came down some too.
Yes, it did. And we also have to remember too, that with the grooming mileage increase, that a lot of clubs were saying they didn't need that $100,000 either.
Yeah, and the fact that we
know.
didn't have a great season to start with. If we really don't need to spend all of that $100,000, I'd like to see it maybe just set aside for, even if we set it aside for grooming next year or set it aside for, something. I know we had it earmarked for fuel assistance, but I'm not convinced that we're to the point where we need $100,000 for fuel assistance, but we will look back at the way that was worded and what the motion was.
I will say that the motion was specifically worded to say up to $100,000.
Right.
So that we weren't obligated in spending the entire thing, so.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Up to.
I'm with you too, Jeff. If we don't need to spend it all, we don't need to.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Just
I think it'd be fair
rely
enough.
on Matt to come up with a formula too, because he knows, he's got his thumb on what gets, done for mileage and everything, and he can help us work on what we need to do.
Yep.
I think it'd be fair enough right out of the gate to say that if our income falls at 91%, just say for sake of argument, 91% of the budgeted income, that number would be also prorated to 91%. That would be the max. So if we said up to 100,000, that was based upon a budget, a gross budget number. And if we come up short of that, that you just use that as a multiplier to establish a maximum number on that process.
Yep. Julianne.
I just think we should base it on fuel purchased and not on groomed mileage, because we still have clubs that groom and groom and groom even when there's no snow. So I just think it should be based on fuel purchased. That's my 10 cents.
But if you've
Well, we
got
did-
clubs that groom and groom and groom, they ultimately purchase more fuel.
Yeah, I know. It's no win. It's a no win. It's a no win.
Much a wash there.
That's not gonna win.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Well, we'll just have to look at the minutes from the annual meeting and see what we came
Yep.
up with there.
Yeah. We'll do that.
I just
Anything else?
pasted it into the chat, what I have in the minutes. If that helps.
Okay,
anybody.
up to 100,000 fund from emergency reserves to supplement for fuel expenses and assistance based on miles groomed with the details of the expenditures. Agreed by Stacy Rose and seconded by Jim Marcia, not unanimously passed. Oh, that was the tail end of it. Okay. Might help if I start at the beginning.
Well, the upshot is it didn't say who was going to come
Oh.
up with the formula.
I remember very distinctly, there was a lot of going back and forth on what we were going to do and trying to fine tune things. And I remember standing up and mentioning that we need to let Matt figure this out, come up with an idea, and not just, shoot from the hip that day and make a decision that day. So I think we kept it vague for a reason. And, I agree with Jeff in the sense that we need to really kind of look at what we actually did spend. And as a club who got a pretty good increase with with the grooming changes, we felt that, and that was good. So I'm not necessarily convinced that disperse that much money for fuel either, but it's definitely worth looking into.
Agreed.
We could just buy everybody $100 gas card and send it out to them. Say, there you go. Kidding, joking. That's easy though. That's a simple one.
Yeah, I guess that really is pretty vague, isn't it? Yeah, it is definitely vague.
And Jeff, if I may add too, I think that, you know, getting back to Julianne's point, it's important to make sure that we look at the data, the real data that we have out there. And once in that, you know, the grooming financial analysis, I know they can be not the most accurate things in the world, but those things are due, I think, May 1st. So we should have a pretty good idea of what's, or Matt will have a good idea of what things looked like this year. It was definitely a wonky year, no doubt.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Matt, maybe you and I can throw some stuff around and come up with something for next month that we can toss at the board. If that works for you. I know you got a lot of
I
other
like
stuff
the way
going
you
on.
worded that, toss at the board. That could mean a lot of things.
Well, I said toss, at least I didn't say throw. So, yeah, we will, Matt and I will work on that and we'll get something out for next meeting. Moving into our committee reports. Anything on the AORR or AO, whatever the thing is there, Mark?
Nothing new. We've we've gotten through a season. To my knowledge, knock on wood, that can change any moment. You tend not to learn of things until later. I met this past weekend with our attorney from New York. I was out at the New York State Snowmobile Association's training out in Lake Placid, where Jay O'Shea gives a talk every year, and I go to talk to him and meet with him. I think we're going to be looking at maybe trying to, well, my idea is that we try to strengthen our liability laws to better protect landowners and others who use the land from frivolous lawsuits. And New York has a pretty strong statute on that. We've filled out our required forms. I think we have one more we have to sign. I have to get up to the office and sign in front of a notary. But other than that, we're on course. So.
Great, thank you. Northeast chapter of USA. Pat, I think you attended one of the meetings not too long ago.
I did. Not the Northeast chapter, because that was back in February, right?
That was.
But I did attend a USA meeting, and we've had the chair of the USA step down due to personal reasons. So we're looking for a new chair. A new chair means it's somebody to run the meetings and to set schedules and that kind of thing. If anybody has a few hundred spare hours kicking around, I'm more than willing to consider you as chair for the organization. USA is the United Snowmobile Alliance. It's made up of Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Maine, New York, California, Nevada, Utah, Minnesota, Colorado, and Wisconsin, I believe. And Alaska is trying to join. So it's a pretty good group. One of the things that I'm working with them right now on is our Fish and Game Department is asking for additional training on snowmobile accident investigation. which is totally different than automobile accident investigation, which the state police do quite well. So it's something that we've reached out to the USA organizations, and we're trying to find out if anybody currently has that training available. And other than that, I don't think there's anything major going on. There's some stuff with the RTP, as Matt knows. RTP is a recreational trails program that comes out of federal. It's federal money from the gas tax. And it's being massaged, shall we say, by the current administration. So there's a comment period going on, and I think Matt is one of the 2 states that's already state responses. So we'll keep that in the rearview mirror and see what's going on. That's about it.
Thanks, Pat. Snow Trail Conservancy, Jim.
Nothing to report.
Law enforcement, I don't think we've got anybody on board for that one.
I can tell you that I met with the law enforcement committee this past week with Cindy, State Police, Fish and Game, and the Southern Vermont Task Force, and looking at increasing the budget possibly this year for law enforcement, and how to bring in more law enforcement on the trails. So we're working on that.
Increasing the VAS budget or increasing the state budget?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, there's 2 questions. Which one is it?
Yes, it is.
That's a Jeff answer.
Well,
yes,
law
Patty, it
enforcement,
is.
Yes.
law enforcement is paid out of the SSTP budget, which is funded by registrations.
Okay.
If the registration for snowmobiles goes up 20%, like everything else is supposed to go up, then we'll get an automatic increase. But I'm thinking that that won't happen because the state doesn't benefit from it, so they won't raise it. So what it'll do is come out of the carry forward money that we have for law enforcement. The $5 from every registration goes into law enforcement. It's mandatory by state law. And we get to manage that, but it is mandatory. It has to stay in the law enforcement. And I believe we're pushing a $500,000 carry forward for years that they haven't budgeted, or they haven't been able to control enough. So if we do increase it this year out of the SSTP budget, I'm guessing it will come out, I know it will come out of carry forwards. It won't come out of the VAS budget.
Sounds good. Awards and nominating, Patty.
Okay, so just a reminder, May 1st is the deadline for any nominations. And the committee will meet either late May or early June to go through them and start the process on that end. Nominating 3 of the 4 officers are seeking re-election, president, vice president, and the treasurer. The secretary is not seeking re-election. We will put out a VAS blast closer to the annual meeting, probably the July-August timeframe. Just a reminder that all positions are open to anyone who'd like to run. If you're interested in any of the positions, just let me know. Reach out to me as the chair of the nominating committee. And just another reminder that nominations are also taken from the floor at the annual meeting for all the positions as well. And that's all I have for that committee.
I just want to thank you, Carmen, for tossing your hat in the ring for that secretary's position.
Is that a sincere thank you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I know how to deal with you. I don't have a problem.
All right. Well, like most of us sitting here, we've been here a while.
Mum's the word.
Even when I run into you at Walmart.
We should say thanks to Jim for really his 1 year of doing this turned into how many years doing it. So much appreciated, Jim. We appreciate your contributions and hope that you continue. So in some capacity anyway. So thank you.
Absolutely. Now Jim just needs to run for treasurer, then he'll have the full suite.
Anybody wants it, they're more than willing to step aside. I have no qualms over it. I got plenty on my plate.
It's funny.
Let's see, bylaws and policy. Mark,
Nothing yet.
okay,
We were waiting for Cindy to return from vacation and we're gonna start looking at the bylaws and for updates.
okay. Annual meeting, any updates, Jeff?
Nothing spectacular. I did meet with the Kenyans. We're planning a meeting once Cindy's returned to meet with Essex County and our county and just kind of a budget meeting to go over what's going on. We do have just about all the important phone calls to the big vendors, and the food vendor is on board from the same gentleman from last year's, which worked really well, I thought. So the important stuff is called, and when Cindy returns, we'll be having a meeting on budget and just what we're going to need, and probably start scheduling some of the whatever we need for chair tables, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
One thing I want to add, Jeff, we've talked about that we want to let all the counties know that any club that wants to have a booth there that may want to sell a raffle ticket or anything like that, they're more than welcome. They just have to contact us and let us know. I think that's what we decided on in our last county meeting, right, Jeff?
Yeah, I think that's we have, from what I can see, we have a ton of room. We'll start going over as we get closer, the layout down there. But there is quite a bit of room. So, there's plenty of room for clubs or county clubs or whoever wants to set up. I think the local club down here is talking, the Mad River Ridge Runners, about doing a 50-50 thing for the day. And but things like that, if anybody wants to just let Mark or myself know.
Sounds good. Thank you, guys. Let's see, executive committee, nothing. Financial, Patty, you're all set, correct?
Nope, just a couple things. Cindy and I did meet and reviewed the budget just to get a projection, see where we are or where we plan to finish the year. So as everybody's aware, we've talked about it all year so far. Income is short of expectations, but expenses are ahead of expectations or lower, Dan, if you want to look at it that way. It's a net positive, but the net positive is a very small margin, but we should be okay is really the message. Cindy and I plan to meet again before the May Board of Directors meeting. And at that time, she'll actually share the numbers so you can actually see what the projection looks like and we're a more firmer idea of where we're going to end the year. And then we'll start working on the new budget. And that plan to share that will be in July at some time. And that's what I have for that.
Sounds good. Oh, let's see, long range, Mark.
Apparently we have some stuff to discuss and look coming up that I'll receive an email on soon.
Sounds good. Resource committee is mothballed for now. Personnel, Julianne.
Nothing to report right now.
Trails, Matt. We've got
Nothing to report. We have the May meeting coming up. And we'll have a whole bunch to report after that, and probably some agenda items on the board of directors meeting, I would guess, for approval of additional mileage, things like that. So
yeah.
May I ask a quick question? I just thought of it. I'm sorry, I don't know why I didn't ask it before. Have we heard anything regarding the wording regarding the 750,000 that we received from the state? Has that wording been finalized?
no.
Yeah, that was
Will
was
it
addressed
ever
in
be
Cindy's.
finalized? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think Cindy's in contact with AOT on that, and she asked to get it clarified. Is my understanding. Is that correct, Matt?
Yes, I know she did send another email last week to inquire about it. We haven't heard anything.
Hey, should we just, should we talk about a deadline? This could happen in a week. It could happen when Cindy gets back. It could happen after June. But Jeff, should we set up or start talking about the chance that maybe this isn't ready for the June deadline this year and giving clubs the proper time and the proper information to file for this? Maybe tabling this till next season and having it ready to go for next spring, April to May.
I think once Cindy gets back, we'll see if we can light a fire under AOT and see if we can get this squared away so it can be used this year. Because I know we had a couple of clubs that withdrew their grant application this past season in hopes of getting a more favorable grant out of the 750. So I think we need to get this straightened out with the state and get it so it is available for this year.
The only reason I ask is that, you know, you're going to get to a point where the shopping on the existing stuff for clubs, whether it be new to them, not brand new, obviously there'll be a lot of new to equipment out there. The shopping could get pretty sparse at that point where it's already kind of picked over at that point, and it may not be feasible for some of the clubs to actually find something or something that works.
Yeah, not having Cindy here and not sure exactly where all that stands, I don't want to put her in a position of having to get something done in a short amount of time. So, but I understand your point, Jeff, for sure. But I would really like to have that squared away. So it can be accessed this year, for sure. I know Stan had to skip out for another meeting. So I don't know.
Roger's
Roger,
here
do you-
still, isn't he?
Yep, I was just gonna ask Roger if he had anything from the safety committee that you could report on.
We had a meeting like a couple weeks ago. Did Stan log off?
Yeah, he
he
had
had another
another
meeting.
meeting to get to.
Yeah, he had another meeting to go to.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so we had a meeting about a week ago and we discussed coming up with some sort of plan to develop some short videos based on safety ideas. So whether it's not using hand signals or no drinking and riding, that kind of stuff. So the safety committee is going to come up with some plans, some ideas to throw around, and then Cindy's got I guess a digital media guy on retainer that is going to work on doing the videos and putting them together. But it's not going to obviously happen until this fall. I think it's when it's going to get kicked into high gear. But other than that, I mean, we're sitting pretty good at this point. I just got somebody from Rutland County. Oh, it was I'm sorry, I should know your name. It was the director from Rutland County contacted me. Yeah. He asked about helicopter landing zones. I sent him the information. And I believe I sent out everybody the contact sheet that needs to be filled out. Honestly, I'm not too worried about it because I'd rather just do it in the fall when everything's fresh on everybody's mind. I'll send that form back out to give counties a chance to update it. Then I'll throw it into the state database for dispatch, and then we'll be good. So there's not really any rush until this fall. That's all I got from safety.
Okay, thank you, Roger. Governor's Council, Pat.
We did meet. We're waiting on the proposal for the SSTB budget from Matt next month. We have a new legislator from Franklin County who is now on the council. And other than that, Fish and Game did bring up the the law enforcement training and it got moved to the law enforcement committee, so still looking at reviewing the fine schedule. And that's about it.
When do those fines have to go in front of the judicial board?
I believe it's August, but I'm not sure.
Okay. Sounds good.
So we wouldn't hear anything till almost right before the beginning of the season then, is that correct? Pat?
Yeah, I don't know what kind of time frame it takes them to make a decision.
Okay. Anything else that anyone would like to bring up?
Just in case people are wondering, I am putting my summer tires on. I've given up on winter. But we do have snow
Well,
here
let's
in
see.
Orleans County still. All
Well,
right.
the season must be over then
So-
if Roger's given up.
The groomers are out and you're paying our fuel.
Thought you were in Florida.
Just got back. That's why I was a little late.
You slap Rich for me?
That's all right, Roger. We still got snow in Chittenden County too. Cochran's has still got snow on their hill.
Addison County
Yeah,
makes a
there you go.
motion to adjourn.
And I will entertain a second on that one.
Second.
County would second.
That sounded like Pat Poon in Chittenden County.
Yes.
Great. Thank you, everyone, for taking a little time out of your Monday evening.